Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to get the chance to talk to you today about the future of business education and how Bentley is meeting that moment. I am Emma Emmer. I am Director of Strategic Programs here at Bentley. And I think this topic is so pertinent, and I am so glad to get the chance to talk about how Bentley's graduate programs are growing, evolving, and shifting to adapt to industry trends to best set up our students for their career success. And so I actually want to start, as I mentioned, from this kind of career success perspective. Not a day goes by that at least I don't see some article about how business is shifting, how there's emerging technology that's kind of blowing up everything that we do within business, or how how a company is adapting to meet our new business context. And another way to think about that shifting of business, beyond the headlines, is what are employers thinking that they need in their future business leaders? Most folks who are joining a business program, a master's program, are thinking about their career and moving it forward in some way, whether that's launching their career, accelerating their career, shifting into a new field. And so understanding what employers are saying is going to be necessary from the perspective of their employees, I think can be really helpful. And so this is at the Graduate Management Admissions Council survey of corporate recruiters that they did in 2024. And what you can see on the left are what those recruiters said were the current important skills. And then on the right, what they're saying important skills are going to be out in the future. And I think what's really important that you can see here is a melding of human-centric skills, those durable skills that all business leaders need, with emerging technology skills. So you have things like problem solving and strategic thinking in the future still topping the list as they do today, but that being melded with things like skills in using AI tools, innovation, which leverages technology. And so, what I want you to be thinking about and what you're seeing in this survey is indication that the business world is changing. There's no question. And that employers recognize that not only do you need emerging technology skills, you don't see skill in using AI as the only thing that folks need, but that in conjunction with those key human business skills are what they're going to be looking for as they go to hire their future employees. And so, with that in mind, that really underscores what we're doing here at Bentley. This is a quote from our amazing president, President Crate. And he here is talking about that as a business university in this kind of innovation age, and in an age where emerging technology is becoming more and more at the forefront of how folks and businesses are working, we must be equipping students with more than knowledge. We must also make sure that all of our students have those cutting edge tools and resources in order to shape the future of business. Something Brent also talks about a lot is the creation of durable skills, things like communication, things like teamwork and problem solving in conjunction with those tools in order to really have the most impact on the business world and the broader community at large. And so I want to spend a lot of time today talking about how Bentley's curriculum and our broader community is focused on integrating things like emerging technology into our curriculum, but also underscoring that or partnering that with those human-centered skills so that folks launch into their careers in the most advantageous position. So, I'm going to talk about that from four perspectives. The first, I want to talk at our base about our programs. Our courses are typically co-designed across disciplines, or at least you can see a lot of evidence of that in our curriculum. And I want to talk about why that creates this interesting intersection between business and technology. We also want to talk today about our faculty and how they're industry aligned and how that brings things like kind of the most cutting edge technology into the classroom. I want to talk about a lot of different kinds of hands-on learning that allow our students to dive into these technologies and really leverage them in an academic setting so that they can do that in a broader business setting. And then I want to talk about some of our alums who have done exactly that in order to launch their careers or forward their careers in many of the directions that I think folks on the line today might be interested in. So, first, I do want to start with our curriculum. As I mentioned, I really want to focus on this intersection of emerging technology and kind of our durable skills. And you can see that across all of the programs here on your screen. I'll call out a couple of specific examples that I think are really helpful in understanding how Bentley's curriculum does this. So if you think about something like our MS in accounting, where all of our tracks save the taxation track, are STEM designated, so have a highly analytical focus. They also really highlight the importance of kind of some of those communication skills or presentation skills alongside those STEM oriented and analytically oriented courses. So, for example, our program director of the MS in Accounting, Len Pape, in his auditing class, talks a lot about how not only are the students using the most kind of typically used tools to do those analyses and to actually in the class audit organizations, they also are focusing on how to present that information and data to the folks that you would be presenting to if you were actually an auditor. And Len talks a lot about how our employers tell him that our students are really well set up for starting their jobs because they not only have the technical skill, but they also have the ability to tell that story after. Something like our MS in Business Analytics, we're also very focused not only on leveraging tools, but on also presenting the information. Our program director there, Luke, talks a lot about how in his course in machine learning, they're leveraging the kind of most state-of-the-art analytical tools. They're also bringing in AI to help them navigate those analytics. But he also, again, focuses a lot on how do you share that information. The analytical side is only a piece of it. The business impact comes from answering the right question, from sharing your findings thoughtfully. And so in his course, he often will assign the students to actually present their analysis to various audiences. So the first project might be present this to a highly technical audience, maybe your peers, in order to get their feedback. Or the next project might be, okay, now present this to a highly untechnical audience and make sure that you're able to share the importance of your analysis and the key facts of it while making sure that you're not speaking about it in a way that cannot be understood by an untechnical audience. And the point of that is, again, to make sure that we're leveraging those state-of-the-art tools while not kind of shying away from having larger business impact by continuing to have the skills such as problem solving or strategic thinking. Certainly, other ways that we're bringing technology into the curriculum is through new programs that we're bringing into our offering set. So within our MS in Finance, we're adding a major in fintech, which is a collaboration between our finance department and our computer and information systems department to focus on things like blockchain or decentralized finance and the how that industry is being completely disrupted by emerging technology. Similarly, within our STEM MBA, we've added for next fall a major in AI, where students are really thinking about those core business skills and that business foundation, and layering on top the ability to understand how AI is going to disrupt businesses. That AI degree, which I think is so, or major, which is so fascinating, is a collaboration between our management department, our computer information systems department, and our philosophy department. And what I think is so important about those groups coming together is that you're getting the key management skills that you need, but then you're actually understanding AI from the computer and information systems lens, really exploring natural language processing, understanding how to use that to make data-driven decisions. But also as a leader, when you're getting your MBA and thinking about management, the importance of bringing in that philosophical, ethical lens on the use of AI and how can AI fail us in making appropriate decisions. Jeff, who's on the screen here, who's in our philosophy department, also is the director of our Hoffman Center for Business Ethics, which is one of the oldest business ethics centers in the country. And I think that perspective for our MBA students brings in, again, that human-centered decision making, that we're not just looking at the emerging technology within AI, but that we're also understanding how to actually use it and how to leverage it for really good business impact. So you may remember I wanted to talk about our programs and how emerging technology is integrated into those. Now I want to talk about how we're bringing technology into the classroom because of our faculty's connection to industry. So these photos are actually a picture from our program director within the Masters in Accounting, Len Pape's course. This is the auditing course I was talking about before. And Len, because of his 40 years of experience in industry as an auditor, was able to invite folks from KPMG to come into his class and talk about how they're leveraging AI in their organization. And so it actually is Len's connection there that facilitated the bringing into the classroom of this really key and emerging information. This isn't something that you can easily go and read about in a textbook or even in a business case because it is so new. And Len's connection to KPMG brought their use of AI directly into Bentley's classroom. Similarly, there's other ways we're bringing technology into the classroom because of Bentley's resources. So on the screen here, you have 4 different centers or uh, kind of resources that Bentley has that allows students to really use emerging technology either within their studies or alongside their studies. So an example would be our trading room. Bentley has one of the oldest trading rooms at any college that our graduate students use. A lot of classes actually take place in the trading room or leverage its resources. Students can also go after hours to engage with those Bloomberg terminals, use FactSet and other key finance technologies that folks on the trading floor are using on an everyday basis. Similarly, you see something like our students using VR headsets. We see that being integrated into classrooms with some pretty interesting effects. So, for example, in one of our MBA programs, we have a course on giving and receiving performance feedback. One of those course sessions actually meets in the VR space where students can use VR headsets to actually give feedback in real time to an avatar and receive feedback on their feedback, which I know sounds a little bit like feedback inception. But instead of role playing with classmates or kind of theoretically talking about giving feedback, students are able to actually practice and get kind of a technological solution in giving them thoughts on how their feedback is being delivered, and they can adjust and change as they go. We have things like our user experience center where students are doing research on different products for clients and are really leveraging things like our haptics lab or other user experience tools in order to see if products are working as folks are hoping for. So technology not only is augmenting the learning process, but students are also learning the technology that they then can use in their careers. I want to talk about experiential learning. Certainly, those tools are good examples of experiential learning as well, but we also have tons of opportunity both within and outside the classroom for students to leverage emerging tools and their human-centered business skills to great effect. A great example of that is this case competition that was run out of our Center for Health and Business. Students were able within teams to develop health solutions using an AI powered app generator called the Health Universe platform. So they got access to really extensive data sets about with anonymized health data, and they were able to propose different apps and different solutions that could benefit the larger population. The amazing thing about this competition was they not only were leveraging this AI tool to generate insight and to generate their actual solution, but at the end of it, they entered a pitch competition where they learned how to present the information, where they got feedback on how they were presenting that information. They were guided by faculty and entrepreneurial mentors who helped shape that kind of communication skill and the ability to pitch their impact. And at the end of it, which was extraordinary, the winners were able to present at Bentley's AI Summit for Health, which featured 250 industry executives. So those executives not only learned about their actual solution, but the students had the opportunity to present what they were able to create that leveraged emerging technology, but also used their extraordinary skills in order to do that. Similarly, I want to point out that Bentley is really focused on ensuring that students are able to gain the technological toolkit that they're looking for. And so these are examples of 3 tools that Bentley actually offers certifications outside of the classroom for. So these are tools that you're maybe using within classes. So you might be using Tableau if you're in an analytics class, Power BI similarly. But perhaps maybe you decide on a degree that is not as analytically focused, but you still want to be certified in this. Or perhaps you're an analytically focused individual, but you want to make sure you have that actual certification in this tool in order to support you from an employment perspective. And so Bentley offers, through our Center for Analytics and Data Science, a series of certifications on technical tools, kind of the newest emerging technologies, in order for our students to stay ahead and understand what should be in their analytical toolkit. Something that I learned recently is that not only do we offer these certifications, but as these tools, as certain tools become more and more used, kind of emerging tools, we're creating coursework around them. So, for example, in our Masters of Business Analytics, starting next spring, we're offering a generative AI specific class in our data science cluster in order to make sure, again, not only students are using it in spaces like this, where maybe they're getting certified outside of the classroom, but that they are really specifically learning those skills from an academic lens. I want to close by talking about some of our alums that I think are great examples of people that are leveraging kind of their analytical and their emerging technology skills in really interesting ways in their career. So we'll start with Fred, who was an MSBA student, a master's in business analytics. He, while he was here, had an internship at Mass General Brigham that he then was able to leverage to be a full-time role. And he was leveraging analytical skills as well as his business expertise. Fred actually, before starting our program, was an entrepreneur and had launched his own business and had incredible business mindedness to make incredible presentations and do analytical projects for this one of the state's biggest employers and a really meaningful healthcare network. He's used all of those most important emerging technologies in order to do that, and analytical tools, things like SQL, Tableau, Power BI. Jonik, who's in the middle, who did his MBA at Bentley, is in a really interesting governmental role here in the Commonwealth, where he's looking at AI in the Commonwealth. He also comes from a background of working in health and looking at the kind of intersection of health and business. But again, he's leveraging his business mindedness now to really help guide the Commonwealth in how they're thinking about uh, these emerging technologies within the state. And then you can see Sal there. He was an MSA, a master's in accounting candidate, who really is at the forefront of things like blockchain within the finance field. He started by at KPMG, really thinking about how that group, similar to what I was talking about earlier with Len's class, was going to leverage emerging technologies. And he's moved on now to focus in venture capital on that space. And he's a huge proponent for how anyone in the finance industry really needs to be thinking about emerging technology. That no longer is it kind of just a hot fad that maybe if you're interested, you're going to pursue an understanding of, but instead he would say it's table stakes in that field, that students understand things like blockchain or decentralized finance or other cryptocurrencies. So I do want to close by talking about how, if you're compelled, to how you could apply to Bentley's programs. If you think that Bentley is going to set you up for this career that you're looking for because of our focus on emerging technology and human skills. You can see here you can apply either for spring 2026, which begins in January, or for fall 2026, which would begin in late August. You can see if you're interested in spring, it is time to start thinking about applying. We certainly would suggest applying as early as you possibly can in order to be able to be considered for things like merit scholarship, or if you are an international student, to give enough time to receive an F1 visa. For the fall, you can see a variety of different deadlines on the screen. Again, we really urge you to think about applying as soon as you are prepared to, because there are the most opportunities for things like merit scholarships or graduate assistantships if you apply early. Applying early also gives you the time to work with us and our program directors to ensure that the program is right for your career development and your career plan. And so we certainly would welcome you starting that conversation as soon as you can. With that, I want to underline how much we would like to stay in touch with you and hear about your individual curiosities about how business is changing and how our programs can support you in navigating that. The second QR code on the screen is how to set up a consultation. That's an amazing way for you to get some one-on-one support, whether that's from a current student, one of our admissions officers, to really make sure that we're answering your specific questions. We want to understand your career goals, and we can help you understand how the programs that we offer map onto that. On the right, you'll see 3 ways to stay in touch with us through social media that would allow you to dig into our programs even further. We offer a variety of sessions and events that we would love to see you at live, or you can certainly watch those on YouTube as you do more research into our programs. We're so glad you joined us for this conversation about the future of business education. I do believe that Bentley is really purposefully thinking about bringing emerging technologies into the classroom, but ensuring you also have that baseline business knowledge that you need and those core durable business skills to make impact regardless of the technology that is emerging. We hope you'll stay in touch with us. Please do schedule a consultation, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.